In the beginning was the Word. Who said that? And who said that? Was it the same guy as the one who wrote it? Am I the same guy as the one who spoke it? God spoke it, but who was he speaking to? Christian, Muslim, Jew? Was he speaking the polyglot babble of many tongues and religions, or in a single language, Hebrew, which is what the Zionists used when creating Israel? And if Hebrew is the official language of the land, how has that affected the other languages? Yiddish, Ladino, and of course, Arabic, that actually peopled this country. Language is the essence of humanity. But half the languages on Earth will disappear this century. This is our last chance to connect with the sounds and tastes and wisdom of these people in their own languages. I'm Bob Holman, adventurer for the Word, and we're going on the road. To learn more about Yiddish, we drop in on the Sholem-Aleichem House, named for the great Yiddish writer. Yiddish is Yiddish for Jewish, and it was the living language of the European Jews, becoming so popular that it spawned 4 daily newspapers in New York City and a worldwide publishing network. But what happened to Yiddish when Hebrew was decided to be the single, unifying national language? Maybe we can find the answers here.
We know 3, how to say it, 3 wonders in the history of Jewish folk. The first one, it's the creation of State Israel after 2000s. Yeah. The second one, it's renovation of Hebrew. That was the death language. And the third one, it's Yiddish culture and Yiddish literature.
Yiddish began in the 12th century as a mix of High German and Hebrew. It was called Little Hebrew, and its text was written in the Hebrew alphabet. Let me tell you, it's a totally different experience writing a poem from right to left.
לזה התכוונתי קודם כל. עכשיו, מה שאתה אמרת, והשווית לזה לשפות אחרות, א', וזה כל אחד יגיד לך, אפשר לדבר הרבה על הקמת מדינת ישראל ועל תפקידה השלילית לגבי יידיש. אנחנו צריכים להבין שמה שבאמת הרג את יידיש זה כמובן שואה.
How is Yiddish being revived in Israel? Well, the Orthodox Jews hang on to Yiddish because they refuse to utter the words of Hebrew outside the synagogue. And here at the Beth Sholem-Aleichem, it seems more of a nostalgia trip. Yiddish, the vibrant and living tongue of the Ashkenazi Jews, is now an endangered language. Was it the Holocaust that pulled out the energy, or was it the insistent ascension of Hebrew? These are interesting questions and have strong implications on the Israeli political consciousness. To get a first-hand taste of the spice of Yiddish culture, I dropped in at the cozy house of my friend, the storyteller Sarat. She grew up in Israel speaking Yiddish with her bubby, her grandmother. I figured this would be the place to get a little geschmack. The story that I've heard is that Hebrew was a classical language, as dead as Latin and Greek.
Exactly.
And how did it get resurrected?
We had some people who had this, I will say in Yiddish the word meshigas.
Meshigas, I like that word.
They had this meshigas that we have to revive the language of the Bible. And the language of the Bible was a little bit heavy, but there are many ways to, I will say, make it a little bit flexible and not so strict, so we can speak with each other in a language that really belongs to us, because this is Hebrew.
Well, you didn't think Yiddish belonged to you?
No, Yiddish belonged to me because my family spoke Yiddish, but I know that many of my friends that didn't come from the same diaspora, they don't even like Yiddish. And I use it because it is, if I would like to take...
Sarat hadn't even told my producers she'd be making the quintessential Yiddish dish, a beautiful cholent. Food is at the center of the Yiddish and Jewish traditions. When a language like Yiddish disappears, so do the recipes.
And this is fried onions here, and this is fresh cut onions. Look how much.
How much?
How much?
That much.
A lot.
Exactly.
3/4 cup of flour. And this is what we call matzemel, which is matzah flour.
Okay.
The big secret will be water.
The secret. Water is the secret?
Water.
It's a good secret.
Just plain water from the faucet.
Wow.
Maybe even more than 1 cup.
Okay, I like the secret.
Now, I'm starting to mix it.
Mix
And I would like it to be heavy,
and make it
because
heavy.
it will cook in the water with the potatoes and the beans. Yes, you can help me.
Okay.
Can you try to open that?
I can try. Is this honey?
Honey.
Oh, you need a man for something, honey.
Excuse me, honey? This is honey.
I love honey.
This will give the golden color to my cholent.
Why is the cholent like the Yiddish language? They're both injected with many flavors. The basic recipe for Yiddish starts with Hebrew and German, then comes Polish, Russian, Slavic, and other European tongues. As the cholent simmers, so too did Yiddish become a meld of all its ingredients, in both cases forming something tender and heartwarming. I'll come back tomorrow to taste the food. But right now, I asked Sarat to tell me a traditional Yiddish story before I leave.
There was a lady who used to travel all around the world. She used to go and visit towns, villages, cities. And one day she came to a small village, and she walked to one of the houses, knocked at the door. They opened the door, and she said hi, and they didn't invite her to go in, which was very unusual for her. So she went to the other house, knocked at the door. They said, yes, can we help you? And they gave her a glass of water. But nobody really asked her to come in. When she walked after the 4th and 5th house, she realized that she's maybe unwanted in this place. She's unwelcomed. So she finished the tour around the small village, and as she goes out of the village, there was a big rock, and she sat there and she said, I have to think what happened that I was so unwanted here, and why they were not happy with me, and nobody asked me to be a guest in the house.
Sun bakes rock, rock makes wall, walls make Jerusalem. Walk into the tear that is the cloud, a memory from the past you never lived. the words dripping like black honey.
And as she was sitting there, a young man showed up, tall, handsome, smiley, like a piece of poetry. And he knocks at the door, and suddenly she realizes that from one house to another, people are following him, and they welcome him, and they're funny, and they're laughing. Everything happens there with him, and the whole village goes after him until he reaches the end of the village and he approaches the rock with this gloomy old lady.
What's your name? Robert.
Robert Ben?
Robert Ben Geller.
Ben Geller.
She stopped him and she said, "Just a second. Who are you?" He looked at her and he said, "I am the story. And who are you, my lady?" She said, "I am the truth. Can I come with you? I will not disturb you, I promise." Said the story, "Of course you can." And since then, the story and the truth are going together, and in every story, there is always a piece of truth.
Good day. All the best.
Thank you, my friend. I love you. Thank you. Shalom. The men who are here believe that these prayers are finding God's ear. It's an odd shape for an ear, a wall. But I understand. If I don't believe, I understand. There's a feeling. Well, I guess that's the feeling. Oh my goodness, look at what happened here. The potatoes, the beans, it's all, the potatoes have all caramelized, all become one. It's like a Buddhist idea. Sarat invited some of her artist friends over for the Geschmack Shabbos, the tasty Sabbath. Shabbat Shalom, L'chaim. Because observant Jews do no work on the Sabbath, the cholent has been cooking itself for the last 24 hours.
Here it comes.
Is this not your glass anymore?
That's what you saw last night in preparation. Ofira. In Balze Bishvilech.
I think that they discovered the taste. And it's a very tasty language. It's a Geschmack.
Geschmack.
It's a Geschmack.
Geschmack. And the meat just pulls itself apart. Look at that.
You have a sip? You have a wine? Amazing style.
Oy, I'd only been in Israel for 2 days, and already the contradictions were boiling over. Yiddish, which I had thought was the language of the intellectuals, turns out to be the province of the far right. Arabic, which I thought I'd be hearing everywhere, is nowhere. And as for another endangered language, the musical mix of Hebrew and Spanish, well, it was time for me to meet up with a friend who could introduce me to Ladino. I met up with Yadida just outside Jerusalem. Her family left Spain during the deportation of 1592 and have been living in Israel for 20 generations.
My grandmother didn't know Hebrew. You know, they did not speak Hebrew in Jews, only in the Bible when they read or they pray. They used to talk Arabic, Turkish, because the Turkish were here, and Spanish, the Ladino. When new immigrants come to Israel, they were ashamed to talk like their fathers. They want to be a new Jewish Israeli, you know, very proud, and they did not want to talk with their parents like in the Spora, in the Gola. Mm-hmm. They want to be a new, very proud people. And the Hebrew, it's a new language. So most of them did not talk with their parents in the language, not in Yiddish, and not in Spanish, and not in Arabic, because a lot of Jews come from Arabic countries. Mm-hmm. They were ashamed. You have to talk only Hebrew. And now we all want to be back to talk like our parents.
Yadira suggested I meet up with Dr. Avner Peretz, who's the leading authority on Ladino. He's actually the guy who wrote the dictionary of the Ladino language.
Only in two cases, Judeo-Spanish, Ladino, and Yiddish, most of the time, these languages were spoken outside of the country or the geographical area where the mother language, how you call it, from which they were evolved.
What Dr. Peretz explains is that there were two reasons why Yiddish and Ladino were the languages of the diaspora that traveled outside their geographical regions. First, the Jews were an elite class who were trying to retain their own culture, and then the Ottoman Empire itself had a very tolerant relationship with other groups. Ladino is an endangered language these days, rarely spoken, but we got to hear it when Professor Peretz read his own poems, which are written in this musical tongue.
And it's called The Dark Galaxy, La Galaxia Escurecida. Saldremos a medianoche a orillas de la mar, a alzar los ojos al cielo y lanzar palabras sabrosicas de amor más lejos de la luna, entre estrellas las más pálidas y más lejanas, hasta la galaxia escurecida, para que oigan nuestros muertos, para que oigan y que tengan esperanza.
To help me to understand the role of Arabic in Israel, I call on my old friend Ronny Someck. I met Ronny in Jaffa, the old town in Tel Aviv, which used to be an Arab enclave. Ronny is the authentic Israeli poet, born in Iraq.
Welcome to Israel. This is for the tour. And this is,
we're on Pisces now.
Yes, Mazal
That's
Dagim.
my sign.
Yes.
So, in your house, were they speaking Arabic or Hebrew? What was being spoken in your Yiddish? What was spoken?
No, when we came to Israel, we spoke Arabic, Hebrew, English, French, like...
So your parents spoke all those languages with you?
Yes, yes.
Your friends were all speaking Hebrew?
Yes, yes.
There was how much Arabic was being spoken?
No, a few people.
It was in these Arab cafes that Ronny made his first contact with the originating culture of Palestine through the songs of Kulthum, Abdul Wahab, and others. The great poetry too, I guess you could say.
Yes, some of them, yes.
Some of them singing some great poetry.
Ahmed Rami and all the classic Arabic poetry.
Arabic is still an official language of Israel, but it's only heard in the walled-in occupied territories. Although Ronny gave me a glimpse into the Arabic language, I felt I needed to visit Ramallah, where Arabic is the dominant language. Ramallah is located on the other side of the security fence, or is it the separation wall? It depends which side of the wall or the fence that you're on. Talk about your language conflict. How you doing? Can you take me to Ramallah?
Inside?
Inside Ramallah, yeah.
this problem.
That's a problem.
Problem.
Will you take me to Ramallah?
Ramallah?
Ramallah, yeah. Okay, thanks. Where do you have to stop?
Where is blockade there?
Look, how come?
How come? This does not belong to us. We are Israelis and they Palestinian. It's in Palestine, the Ramallah. It's in Palestine area, territory, Palestine territory.
It's too complicated for me.
Okay, get in, I explain you.
Okay, thanks.
It's danger, very danger. And I'm not allowed to do this. I'm not allowed. As an Israeli, they're not let me in, and it's against the law. It's make a problem.
What do you think about the Palestinian people?
They're very, very poor. I born here. I'm the third generation here. My grandpa born in Jerusalem. And I remember I born in 1940. Before the British leave Palestine, I lived 8 years under British government. And I remember all those kind of what's happened here. And I think the Palestinians, they're very, very poor.
Obviously, getting to Ramallah ain't that easy, so I thought it would probably be a good idea to bring along my friend, the Palestinian poet, Abed Natur. Okay, let's do this thing. I don't know.
And the song was about missing Ramallah because his love, she's from Ramallah, or he just left her and traveled to Ramallah. She was from a small village beside Ramallah, and he goes to Ramallah, and she started to sing, وين ع رمالة وين ع رمالة والفي مسافر ما تخاف من الله ما تخاف من الله والفي مسافر ما تخاف من الله حظي ونصيبي وين يا حبيبي وين يا حبيبي وين ع رمالة. This is the checkpoint.
אבל תגיד לו שאתה לא נכנס, שלא ילחץ.
איך אני מגיע לרמאללה בבקשה?
ישר, חכה, אני רוצה לראות תעודת זהות שלהם.
תעודות זהות?
כן.
אלה צוות אמריקני.
בסדר, אני רוצה לראות תעודת זהות.
אוקיי, want your passport.
He's such a nice soldier. Because he says you don't need. What about me when he sees the blue? I don't really want to give him my blue ID. You have visa, all of you, for Israel?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have no problem. You just say just to enter. No problem. What in North? Okay, he says it's 25 shekels.
25 shekels, okay. Once we got through the checkpoint, I called Aswad and Ruan, two poets who are part of the hip-hop group, the Ramallah Underground.
No, I don't do.
And they even take Mahmoud Darwish poem and put a beat with it.
It's amazing.
They're very pretty, amazing guys. I think you'll have a good time. It was hard not to talk about the ID cards, armed guards, separation wall, security fence, all the reminders that Israel is a divided country. And what other kinds of ID can you have here?
Well, you can have a green ID, which is for the West Bank, and then you can have an orange ID, which is for Gaza. But it all depends also on where you live. I mean, if you're living in a certain...
So there's also discrimination on the checkpoints, depending on, you know, like my ID says a religion, someone else's ID says a different religion, and mostly Muslim Christian, obviously in the West Bank, and they discriminate on that as well.
Yeah.
And it's illegal for you to go to Jerusalem.
Yeah.
So we can't really be together.
Like, for example, if I go to Beit yeah, no, we can't.
Anywhere?
No, not here.
Not here.
We can go immigrate to Canada.
Yeah. Like if you go to Bethlehem, okay, let's say we go to Bethlehem. Firstly, we have to go two different ways. We can't go the same way.
We can't go the same way.
Because of our different IDs. And I
travel anywhere to get to do gigs as well. We have to go different bridges to Amman to get the same flight. But she has to drive 4 hours up north, and I have to go to Jericho in 2 hours so we can meet in Amman in Jordan.
People think that they're kind of resisting through leading a normal life and ignoring the fact that, you know, they're surrounded by a wall in whichever direction they go and they can't get out. So there's this constant illusion and there's this kind of state of suspension in Ramallah where you're continually kind of deluding yourself that everything is fine, everything is normal. You can go out to a restaurant and have a cup of coffee, you can go and eat, you can go to a bar, you can go to a party, you can have your own house and car, but you're all the time kind of completely disconnected from the very real reality around you. It really is a kind of, it's a bubble. In a way, what you see in Ramallah is a kind of complete breakdown of a community in a way. And specifically, I think it's the kind of breakdown of a Palestinian political community.
This is the song I did when Mahmoud Darwish passed away. Basically, it was, I took a recording of his...
Where did you find that?
I found it on a documentary they were putting on Arabiya television. And they basically filmed his last show in the Ramallah Cultural Center, or Cultural Palace.
Right here in Ramallah?
Yeah. And those were one of the last words he said, which was what he says in the end, which is, he stops the poem and says, I forgot the rest of this poem, but I want to leave it to another poet to continue this piece. And then, so I took that and put it on some music, and the music was inspired by the feelings I had when Mahmoud Darwish passed away, and I started thinking about him and reading his stuff again and things like that. So this is it.
هرب الوقت منا وشذ المصير عن القاعدة. ها هنا قاتل وقتيل يموتان في حفرة واحدة، ونسيت البقية، لكن على شاعر آخر أن يتابع هذا السيناريو إلى آخره.
On the way back to Tel Aviv, our route paralleled the wall, which more and more seemed to signify walls between cultures, causing Yiddish and Ladino to be endangered, bracketing Arabic on the other side. Could this be enforcing not just a language, but a whole system of political thought, the problems, the conflicts, the seemingly intractable divisions? If they could be spoken about in a variety of mother tongues, could some opening, some flexibility, even some solution be found?